Grandma, do you remember anything about the murders?
Your great-grandpa and your great-grandma lived in this house when it happened. He was the boogeyman, they said. Can't catch the boogeyman. Can't kill the boogeyman. You know, before that summer, everybody would leave their doors unlocked. And after the summer, you saw a stranger, you'd run the other way. And now, he's back.
What do you want?
Turn around. Do not look back.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
The town of Texarkana has awoken to a gruesome act of violence.
He could have killed me. He did it.
He chose that girl to be his messenger.
They couldn't catch me 66 years ago, and they never will.
People say that he was a demon or a spirit.
A soul consumed by vengeance.
We are not hunting a ghost. We are after a flesh and blood killer.
Just about everyone around here's got some kind of blood on their hands.
He's gonna make the town pay for its sins.
Some days turn out great, it's okay. 'Cause some days turn out bright, it's alright.
I'm going to do it again and again until you make them remember.
A trip to Lover's Lane is the beginning of a nightmare for 17-year-old Jamie when her date Corey is brutally slain by a masked man in an attack mirroring a series of killings that took place more than a half-century earlier. Barely escaping with her life, Jamie becomes obsessed with tracking down the killer and launches an investigation into the Phantom, a serial killer who stalked young lovers in 1946 Texarkana. As the body count mounts and the carnage comes closer, Jamie delves deeper into the mystery with the help of the town archivist Nick, following clues she hopes will point her towards the killer's identity. Dun dun dun! Dun, 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 dun. Welcome, one and all, to a very special episode of the Little Pot of Horrors, where we are going to be talking about the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown, the 2014 version.
Town that had its fucking Skype connection cut off again. Hello, you're back. Sorry.
Am I back?
It's got the town that fucking disappeared. There was an earthquake.
I gobbled it up. What's it?
The best ideas is premarital sex on Halloween.
Yes. Yes. So hello, welcome to the Little Pot of Horrors. As usual, I'm Mr. Gordon, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Boz. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
Snap
we talk
jinx.
over each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while, people. Yeah, I'm okay, actually. It's not been the best of weeks. But there's been some cool stuff as well, as you will find out later, listeners. But yeah, I'm good. You?
There has been. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you very much. Cool. So has not as much cool stuff happened to me as happened to you.
Well, you do live in Indiana, to be fair.
Yes, I do live in a town that dreads sundown and sunrise. Or maybe that's just me.
And weather patterns and yokels and...
Yeah. Speaking of weather pattern, if I disappear at any point, it's because there's a big, huge storm that's about to hit us. So, we'll see.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, for the next 6 months, it's tornado season. So.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. There's not a lot we can do. This is the love I have for you people.
A town that dreads everything.
Dun, dun, dun. Hey, I got a movie idea.
Yeah?
Write that one down. TLPOH Productions presents. Anyway, speaking of presenting, Orion Pictures presents The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yes.
Oh boy, this is one that had been on my radar for a little while because it popped up on Amazon.
Okay.
I do pretty much the same on Amazon as I do on Netflix, but I see all the new movies that are coming out or that are on there for streaming. So I was on there and I saw this one, and the name Gary Cole caught me. I like Mr. Gary Cole. I always have done. Going back way into his, I think it was an American TV show called Midnight Caller, maybe.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Gosh,
you remember that one? Or do you know that
vaguely,
one?
Really
yeah.
vaguely. Well, the problem
is,
you say Gary Cole, I think of the small kid from Different Strokes, and that's not the same person, is it?
No, it's completely
with the chubby
different.
cheeks.
Completely different person.
Sorry, yeah. Well, I noticed he wasn't in this movie, so I figured I must be wrong. What was his name?
Gary Cole.
No, the little kid from Different Strokes.
Oh, I can't remember.
Gary something.
The one.
They got nothing but the jeans. They got different.
Did he?
No, I don't think he did. No, he did not. Cut. Edit.
His name is Gary Coleman. So
Coleman, there you go.
Okay, legitimate confusion there. So
yes,
I don't feel so silly.
And apologies to Gary Coleman and anybody who may know him or his family. I'm fairly sure he didn't try and kill anyone.
Yeah, we just put it down to us watching too many horror films. It's fine.
Yes.
It's fine. Carry on, sir. I'm sorry for interrupting. As per usual.
A blending of life and my mind. Anyway, so this was on the radar, and I hadn't watched the trailer. I just saw what it was about, and I thought, oh, you know what? The poster intrigued me. It looked a kind of interesting one. There's a kind of sack face, and I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. That sounds quite good. I didn't know it was It's not really a remake. This one's not a remake. It's taking the movie from 1976 and kind of expanding on it a little bit, or bringing it into kind of modern life, I guess. So I tried to go into this one kind of blind, and then I guess we can talk about. I'm changing my mind as we go live, people, because I said we were talking about this at the end. But we were kind enough to receive an invitation to watch this movie.
Yes.
And thought, okay, well, this is really, I can't get there, unfortunately. I just can't jump.
Yeah, Soho's a long way.
It is a little bit, but it's over here. It's available on Netflix. So I was like, okay, get your finger out, Gogs. It's time to watch this. You've now got a good excuse to watch it, or put it up the list anyway, and then we can talk about it and have a good show about it.
Yeah, for me, seeing it wasn't quite so easy. In fact, if Gordon had flown all the way from Indiana and then got from Heathrow to Soho to watch this screener, he would have found it easier than I did.
Yeah, you had a hard day that day, didn't you?
Yeah. For those of you who've ever listened to sort of my my older years back podcasting, when I used to have a section on Here Goes Nothing called Boz's Rant of the Week. I have a bit of a rant, if you'd like one.
Oh, yes, please. I can't wait to hear this story.
Okay, so this press screening in Soho's, some screening rooms, and it was kind of like, cool, wicked. It's during the day, because that's when these things happen, so I managed to sort of negotiate work around, and I did some very long hours to make that window appear in the middle of that day. And I'm thinking now, what is the quickest, most efficient way to get into London without delays, problems, fuck-ups? I'll use my motorcycle. My
good.
Big fucking safe motorcycle, yes. And I got into Soho. It was a lovely sunny day. I had a great ride in. It was fantastic. I arrive in Soho. I get to the right street. And it's like, right, now to look for a motorcycle parking bay. Of which there's, 20 in a 1.5 mile radius, probably.
What?
Every single one was full. The ones that weren't full had the parking suspended because of some kind of building works. There was a multi-storey car park thing at the end of the street that the screening room was on, which normally has free motorcycle parking. I go in there, it's been suspended, right?
Oh, what?
So I'm like, okay, fine. Attendant comes out to talk to me because I'm on a bike, and he's like, yeah, sorry, motorcycle parking's been suspended. I said, yeah, I know. I'm just going to get a car space and put it in there. He says, no, I can't let you park a motorcycle here.
What?
I said, what? I said, look, I'm willing to be fleeced by you a ridiculous amount of money for 3 hours parking, right? I will bend over and take that because it's really important to me that I park this vehicle, okay? So I'm going to rent that really big space and just put a small vehicle in it. That's okay, yeah? No, I can't let you park a motorcycle. So I'm like, what? I'm renting space. I should be able to put a fucking wheelbarrow in it.
No, exactly.
So I got all huffy and, pointed at the Ferrari that was parked here and said, what makes him any more important than me? And he says, can't let you park a motorcycle. Then he wouldn't raise the barrier either.
Oh, God.
So it may have sustained some damage as I left. Anyway, that's maybe should have edited out. But
allegedly, maybe.
Motorcycle's huge. I couldn't get past it cleanly. So, yeah, I then drove around. I then found another place that didn't have the parking suspended, which was in Chinatown, which wasn't a million miles away. But by the time, with the central London traffic, sort of in the middle of the day, I got to that car park. I got down 3 stories to where the bikes were parked. And there was almost a space. If I was willing to get off my bike, pick up somebody else's, move it over slightly, then I could get mine in. That was the only space there. And when I looked at the clock, the film started 10 minutes ago.
Oh.
So I arrived 40 minutes early for the screening and missed the screening. To say I was angry was a bit of an understatement. I was absolutely seething. So, I mean, I've called London Shitsville for years, but it's really good. Yeah, it's not London's fault. It's the council. So I wrote an email to Sarah, who set up the screening for us, and she's been absolutely fantastic. And we want to big her up on the show.
Yes,
she sent me a screener of the film that I was able to see in my own space. So, and that's been quite useful for reference. And so that's Boz's rant of the week. So if that happens
Job's
again,
worth right there.
Yeah. So what I should have done is gone to an outlying tube station, parked the bike there, got on the tube, and tubed it in. So lesson learned. The thing is, I don't do it a lot going to London, and I've not had a problem before. It was just, I don't know why. It's probably because the sun came out. It was like summer here this week. It was like 23 degrees, which is really hot for April. And I reckon everyone just went, "Oh, go work on the bike today," and London just wasn't ready.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with the film, but there we go.
No, it hasn't. Unless you want to put a sack in your head and go get him.
Yeah. Or that parking attendant, if I'd had a knife and a trombone, he'd have been for it. And relax.
Best kill scene ever.
Spoilers.
Okay. As expected, people, and this is probably going to be a little bit, maybe spoilerific, it's going to be a complete blow-by-blow, almost, of the entire movie.
Yep.
Sort of like we did with Evil Dead, if you remember that going back. So if this isn't something if you want to catch this movie and you don't want it to get it ruined for you, please do go check it out before listening to this. If you don't care, Pablo, then I hope you enjoy what we talk about.
Yeah, exactly, because there are people who will just want to listen to us go through the movie, but we do this when we do a special because the title of the film's on the thing, and we would like people to sort of listen and then stop it, go away, watch a movie, come back, listen again, and then hopefully you're sort of going along with this, going, oh yeah, I like that bit too, and that's why we do it this way, because I think people, it's kind of different to having a running commentary, but if you've just watched a movie, it's kind of fun to put something like this on and just relive the movie with somebody, and that's what we're trying to create doing these. I think we're planning to do more as well.
Fingers crossed. Well, yeah, Haunt.
Oh, yes. So,
it's a relatively easy one for the US side of our listener base to track this one down. Let's see, I saw it on Netflix. It's now popped up. It was on Amazon for rent, but it's now popped up on Amazon Prime. And even for Amazon for rent, it was like $2. So it's a relatively easy one for over here. Over there, it's just come out in the cinemas. How big a release, I'm not entirely sure. So hopefully, if you do wish to see it, you can see it quickly.
I find films like this are hitting VOD pretty quickly after their main, cinema releases. So they tend to be sort of a couple of weeks after. So we'll keep an eye on that, and when there's links for it, we shall put them on the Facebook page, so you can find out where to see it.
Yes, we shall. The jumping Facebook page. Which thanks to Facebook's... I've got to get my time for a little rant. Thanks to Facebook's new way of changing things, we lost a whole bunch of likes. Thanks, Facebook.
Did we?
Yeah, no, it was inactive accounts. They removed inactive accounts, so we lost like freaking 40 likes or something like that.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
So what you're saying is we drove 40 people away from Facebook?
That's what I was wondering. It's like, are we that bad, really? Come back, please. But no, their email came out and said it was they were changing how they did it. So that makes sense. If it's an inactive account, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we like real people in our group. That's
yes. Fine. Okay, back to the movie, shall we?
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you what I thought of it. Ha 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 ha. You'll have to wait and listen to the whole show.
Okay.
Reason being, because my thoughts changed, so you can see what I think. Play a guessing game. Did Gogs like this movie or not? I'll see what I can do. So, without trying to spoil it, and if I do go into spoilers, I apologise. But so to me, it opens up with a... Not to me, it does open up with this big, long camera shot going through a drive-in where they're showing the annual viewing of The Town That Dreaded Sundown, the 1976 movie. In, what is it, Spring Park or something, Texarkana, which I think it said was the Arkansas side. I didn't realise there was this town that existed, which has one side of the town is in Texas and one side of the town is in Arkansas. Not entirely sure how that works. It's got two different police departments, it's got two different mayors.
Oh my god.
It's legitimate. This is not a fake town. This is an actual town in America.
Yeah, and these films are based on actual events.
Yes.
Which happened.
There was a killer in 1947. As you get from the very opening scene, there's a voiceover that explains all this for you.
I think it was 1946, actually.
Was it 1946? Okay, I apologise. Bad note from Gogsy. Write that down.
It's all right. I'm actually going to bleep that out of the edit, and you'll know why later on. But there is a reason for that. Anyway, carry on.
Yes, so this person, the Phantom, just mysteriously popped up one day, killed a bunch of lovers or couples, and then just as quickly as he popped up, he disappeared. Was never caught. They didn't know who did it. They had their suspicions. I think they actually arrested a man for it, but it was never proven who it actually was. So they made a movie in 1976 about it, like in a documentary style, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to see. But I don't think it matters because you're not really it's not a remake or anything like that. It's just, to quote a lot of people talking about it, it's a whole meta thing.
Well, the 1976 movie is a slasher flick based on the original killings.
Yeah, it was done as a documentary style, I thought. Was it not?
No, the intro sort of is, but then when you get into the movie itself, it's very much a movie. It's got some...
Oh, is it?
It's got some really questionable sort of comedy stuff going on.
Okay.
With a really annoying slapstick character who turns out was actually the director of the feckin' movie. At one point, he's dressed as a woman because he's been on a sting, and there's a weird guy trying to touch him up in the front of a van. It's really odd in that, and yet... The murder scenes which you get to see in the new film are they're quite visceral because they did a couple of them with no dramatic, like 1970s was like big building music, rah, 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 rah. And like this infamous trombone scene is completely soundtrackless, and it's just stark and brutal, and it really it's punchy, powerful stuff, and then you get to like the bits in between, and the sheriffs are really kind of schlocky, and they made this sort of, I don't know, action-packed ending because they were just going to sort of end it with two cops in the car going, "Gee, I wish we knew who'd killed all those people." The end. So.
Oh, damn, I wish I'd watched it now, rather than going off what I'd read about it.
Well, the meta thing comes from, actually, this is the 2015 release of Town That Dreaded Sundown. This is meta in that it is a work of fiction based on true events, which features a previous work of fiction.
There you go.
So this one is sold as this happened last year.
Yes.
But it didn't. And it starts with them watching the original 1976 movie in 2013 in a drive-in. And this is the opening shot you're talking about. So
at Halloween, I think.
Yeah, it's like, and I was actually arguing with Lavinia earlier. She's going, well, it's a sequel. It's a sequel. I said, no, it isn't, because that would be called The Town That Dreaded Sundown 2. She said, yeah, but it happens after the other one, so it's a sequel. I said, well, no, it's a clever remake. It's a meta remake. She's like, no, it's a sequel. So I got the press notes out, and I went, this clever remake? It's a fucking remake. But yeah, it's not a by-the-numbers remake. I think it's, well, we're not getting into opinions yet, but it's pretty cleverly handled. But I don't really like the term meta, but it is.
No,
so, yeah.
Okay, so where was I? Shit,
long,
where was I?
Long camera shot coming through the...
Yeah, so with the long camera shot coming through the drive-in, they're watching the 1976 movie, the original movie, on there. We come up along across a young couple sitting on the hood of a car. She's not really into it, and he kind of turns around to her, and she's like, yeah, I don't like these kind of things. And he's like, you want to get out of here? She's like, yeah, sure. So they get into the car and start to leave. The car pulls, the camera starts pulling through the parking lot again. And then we see Gary Cole sitting there very ominously in the car, just a little light on him, some cigarette smoke going around, which is a very good introduction, but it kind of immediately made me go, yep, you're a bad guy.
Fucking he did it!
Yes. Exactly. Then it kind of moves on. And all throughout it, you can hear bits of the movie, but you can also hear these people talking about it being a godless movie. This is a godless movie. You shouldn't be watching this movie. As there is a Reverend Cartwright as they are handing out leaflets, telling people not to be watching this and trying to turn them away from watching. I don't know what the leaflet says, but probably promoting his church and his radio show on the local radio station, where he'll preach to you, and it's just the kind of typical thing you would imagine in small town, kind of Midwestern Southern America, where the religion is key. Sorry.
Yeah, I have to put in that if anybody has ever watched Gilmore Girls, or indeed The Lost Boys, let's face it, that's where most people know him from.
Yes.
I always get his first name wrong. I always think it's Howard. It is not.
It's Edward.
Edward, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay. Edward Herman plays this vicar. Now, I love him mainly because of his work in Gilmore Girls. Yes, I know it's not very horror, but, people know I love that series. But he actually, he passed away on the 31st of December, 2014. So I don't know what else he had in the pipeline, but this could have been his last film, I'm not sure. So it's kind of, it was lovely to see him in the role, but also a little bit sad, because I've always liked his work. So
yeah, I wasn't even aware that he had passed away. It must have kind of bypassed me. I'm sure it was on a news somewhere or something.
Well, I think you'll find that I got a notification through Facebook because I liked the Gilmore Girls page on Facebook. Oh, my credibility's all gone. It's all gone.
It is.
Watch it, people. It's funny. I'll defend it till the day I die. I don't care. Sorry.
I have never watched an episode, so I don't know what it's about, unfortunately. So I can't comment either way. But yeah, so you can hear him through the background and his people talking about godless movies. Godless movie.
And he's saying, real people died, son, because a guy walks past with a Town That Dreaded Sundown T-shirt on, and they're trying to guilt trip people because they're watching a sensationalist film about real murders, and you're sitting there watching a sensationalist film about real murders, about a film about real murders, and thinking, yeah, that's a good point, actually. Should I turn this off?
Yes. I better go to church tomorrow.
Yes.
But it's a very cool opening shot. So it's all one big long take. So it's set up very well, and you get introduced to a lot of different characters who you'll meet later on in the movie. So it was very well done that way. So the girl and guy drive through the town and goes up to Lover's Lane, which is a place you're not supposed to go to after dark, as the sign says. So we know something might happen there. And then you get the usual kind of, I guess, the kind of cliche chat in the car. Oh, what are you going to do? I'm going to go to college, but I might not go away. And he's, oh yeah, I'm the big football star, and people look at me as a big football star, and blah 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 blah.
And now I'm going to stick my hand up your skirt.
Yes, let's get some kissy time. Yes, hand up the skirt shot.
Well, he doesn't even kiss her. Does he kiss her first? I'm just like, I'm sorry.
No, he does.
Rules of play, there's bases, I thought,
Yeah, there is, but he doesn't. He's a speedy man. He's like, okay, here's the lips have touched, so I can now move on to the next one. Next.
Actually, so to compare this to the 1976 version, do you know what he does in the car? This is the first couple in the first car.
No.
Like, his approach, his smooth way to get in is he lies down with his head in her lap facing the glove box.
Nice.
Not facing the other way. They're facing the glove box. And they're like talking like that. It's like smooth. Does that normally work? Do you have a good success rate with that move? I'm not convinced.
But this was their first date in this one. In this movie, anyway, this was their first date. So maybe that was a bit much. I don't know. This is a godless movie, after all.
I do think that if she hadn't seen the creepy face in the bushes beyond him while they were kissing, sort of thing, there probably would have been a slap in the face following anyway.
Oh, I don't know, because of a scene you hear later on. I'm not entirely sure just how far should I let him go. Because she did want him to like her.
True.
So, that old chestnut. So yes, said man appears in the woods. She gets a bit of a shock, as you would, because it is a man with a sack over his head. So car door's locked, and he's like, "I just peeping Tom," blah 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 blah. And they're like, "No, okay, let's get out of here." And being the obliging, kind of chivalrous man he is, he's, "Oh sure, let's go." Starts to turn the car on as the side window smashes him, to a great effect, and a gun appears, telling them to get out of the car. So obviously, as any good person would do, you oblige to the man with the gun and say, "Okay, I'm going to get the car." And then he tells the guy to pull down his pants.
As you do.
Which she's not really, which she's not really going to, but she's like, no, pull down your pants, it's fine. She's doing his head. So he's like, okay, I'll kind of pull them down a little bit. Then he's like, get on the ground. He's like, okay, just leave the girl. Now he's becoming really chivalrous. He's like, leave the girl, let her go. I'll do whatever you want, let her go. And the bad man in the sack kind of points the gun at the girl, whose name actually name's Jamie, who we find out is our protagonist. Makes her turn around. He's like, don't look, just turn around. The guy, her boyfriend Corey's on the ground, and then the killer gets down on top of him. And to be honest, my mind went elsewhere as to what was actually going to happen. I don't know why my mind went.
Probably because he made him take his pants off. That was random.
Yeah, possibly. I did believe he was going to get raped. They didn't go that way. And we get a lovely scene of of Corey being stabbed multiple times.
Yeah, quite violently, quite a lot. What's good about the scene and what makes it look really cool is that it's the car's running because he started the car to escape, and the rear lights are on, so everything's in the red wash of the rear lights, and that's a really eerie kind of look. I like that.
It was really cool, and very well. I saw always the kind of silhouettes on the cliff wall or something.
Yeah,
that was there. So even though she was turning around, she could still see everything that was going on, just in silhouette form.
Yeah.
And we get a very nice close-up of the rear light of the car, as you can hear sound of a projector going. So I quite like that too. Thought that was very cool, as though you were watching a little bit of a movie. And then she turns around, because that's what you do, and escapes, or runs away. And we get our first real kind of intercut with the original movie.
Yeah.
Just a really quick snap cut in there. And then she runs away, she falls down, and obviously the sack man kind of falls down gets down on top of her, and tells her that this is for Mary, make them remember, and then leaves her be. So she stumbles, finds her way over to the drive-in again. No idea how far away they had driven, but I bet she walked for quite a while.
Yeah.
It would appear.
She did look a bit exhausted.
Yes, she did. She'd been through a lot, heck of an ordeal. And just as she's walking up there, we get our opening credit scene, which is very, very short. It's just an Orion Pictures release, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And then she just collapses at the bottom of the screen. People go, oh, what's that? What's that? All the car lights start going on. There you go. We've had our opening scene. Well set up, I thought.
Yeah, it was a good setup.
Yeah, it's a very good setup. I mean, you learn everything you need to know in less than 5 minutes.
And it's really good, like you say, it intercuts with the projection of the original film at the drive-in. So they haven't dropped in clips from the old film, they've dropped in cutaways back to the other people and what they're watching. And I like that as well. That was a good way of doing it.
It was. So yeah. I have got to go back to the very beginning. See when it first came up saying Orion Pictures. Every time I see that, it makes me think of RoboCop.
Yeah,
there you go.
And it was good to see the original logo. I liked that.
Yes, it was.
Brilliant.
It was very neat. But yeah, every time I see it, just RoboCop comes to mind.
Yes.
That must have been the first Orion Pictures movie I'd ever saw, or one that.
Or was the one that got scarred into your memory first.
Pretty much, yes. Yeah. Oh, it still gives me shivers with the Acid Man. Anyway.
That was Ed 209 in the boardroom for me. And the smoke.
Yeah,
and just the sheer blood squibs. He was just a walking squib, that guy. That upset me. I was far too young. And here we are today.
Yes. There you go. See, it says a lot. We're scarred by our youth.
Yeah.
And then, too, so after we've had our little scene from there, we get kind of a lovely scene where we find out that Gary Cole's, in fact, a deputy. And this is where I'd started to... things start to go a little bit strange. We're getting various different types of camera shot. We're getting face close-ups, we're getting silhouettes, we're getting angles from the top and side, and I'm like, okay, where are we going? I'm a bit unsure as to where I am here. But we're in the hotel room, not the hotel room, the hospital room, where she's explaining everything that happened, and obviously we have the, did you do drugs? You've been drinking and doing drugs. We get the nice little grandmother introduction, where she very sternly tells the cops, did you find drinks and drugs in her? And it was like, no, she's a good girl. We're going to put a car in front of you, in front of your house, and keep watching. And one of the other deputies kind of volunteers himself and says, I'll do that. And I'm like, okay, this is great. With the little cut into the house, back to where she lives with her grandmother. And we find out all the story about what it was like to live in that town when the original killings happened, and then when the movie came about, which I thought was a pretty good setup scene as well, from the grandmother telling her her thought on what happened and what she learned from her mother and everything that happened when the movie came around. And to me, for some reason, it's very strange hearing from me, but the costume design, the clothes that Jamie was wearing was a complete 180 from what she'd been wearing the night before, or a couple of days before when she was out with Corey.
See, I didn't even notice that.
Well, she was kind of wearing kind of girly stuff, what you would expect, kind of, skirt, nice top, whatever. But then when she's in the house, she's completely buttoned up to the top with a shirt and a sweater and long pants, and trousers for the UK, and everything. There's either something from, I don't know, a very religious family that's scared to show any flesh.
Oh, I see. Maybe the heating was just broken.
It could be very cold in there. It's an old house. So we do learn about the house that our great-grandmother lived in, so it could be. You're right.
I think a little bit of it also is although the film is set in 2013, because it is this meta remake, I think a lot of the shots like that, the internal shots and things like that, they've consciously tried to make it look like 1970s, but still being modern. Do you know what I mean? So I think
it's a very 70s feel.
Yeah, which is really cleverly handled, I think. There's only a couple of bits where, if you hadn't sort of paid attention at the beginning where it said, the titles come up when it's set, you could almost feel that it was in that sort of era until you heard some of like the hip-hop music in a car and, things like that. It's I don't know if Texarkana is sort of a bit dated as a place, but they've really kept it, they've kept the feel of that era really well, I think.
No, yeah. Do I want to ruin it for you? No. From what I've read about the little bit of Texarkana, apparently it is quite not as modern as you would think. I don't know if it's stuck in its past or it's just this is the way the town looks.
Bit of a time warpy place.
Yes. From what I believe or what I've read anyway. Never been there, but I'm very intrigued as to how the whole thing works. A town with 2 mayors and 2 police departments? I don't know. Should it make sense to someone?
Yeah.
So we've had a nice little scene with grandmother, and we've got a bit more backstory behind the Phantom and how the town feels, and you learn that until those days you never locked your doors, and all the stuff you've heard from everybody. Everybody's grandmother said that. Never used to lock our doors.
Yeah.
And everything. I'm sure mine said the same thing. And where was I in my notes? And with a very nice line I liked for what they said about the Phantom was that his father was the devil and his mother's a whore. Ooh, harsh. Yeah. But then we get a nice little cut scene to the counsellor, where obviously after such a tragic event, Jamie has to go see a counsellor, and we get a little bit more of her backstory. The fact that she's been on medication for many years, doesn't really want to go on more medication now. She's having some dreams. This is what I was kind of alluding to earlier. She said she doesn't get asked out a lot, so she was flattered when Corey asked her out, and she just thought if they went and did some kissing, it'd make him happy, and he'd like her, and those kind of things. Just kind of, you've seen this before.
I still think she'd have slapped him in the face for going there too early.
But yes, it was incredibly quick. Kiss boom. There you go.
Yeah. If he hadn't been horribly murdered, he'd have been slapped in the face. Sticking to that line.
That'll teach him. But we have learned what happens when you try and do naughty things. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
You try the sexy time, you die.
Watch Scream, people.
Yes. Tells you everything you need to know. And then we get a scene that's just... It was really weird. We find out we cut to end of November. We're at an airport. We're following this girl walking in there. I'm like, what the hell am I watching now?
Yeah, I like this bit.
Out comes the Marine. She's like, yay, hi. They jump on each other. Oh, I haven't seen you for so long. And here we go. We're in a horror movie. What haven't we mentioned yet? Boobs. And there we go. Here's a scene.
We have a score on the boobometer, people.
Yes, we do. We have our sex scene, we have our boobs, and we have obviously this being a kind of horror movie, we can see the ladies' boobies, we can't really see much of the men, and we have a strategically placed sheet, so you can't see his pee-pee. We can't be showing that now, can we? No. She gets hungry, wants some cookies, because she, sugar rush and all that, and they have been busy, haven't seen each other for a while. Sends him off to the vending machine, which I love. I don't know if this is just a Marine thing, it's whatever. You're just like, fuck it, I'm putting my boxers on and I'm going outside.
Yeah.
I don't care who sees me. I'm going to go to the vending machine in my boxers on. Okay, why not? If you're buff, why not? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
So she goes off. He goes off. She gets this champagne out. It looks as if she's got a ring. She's about to propose to him. Very 21st century. Which I liked. And then she hears a noise. What could that be? And then next thing, her boyfriend's head is slammed against the window.
Just his
Love
head.
it.
Nothing else.
Yes. Nope. Just his head, and the killer uses his head to smash the window in. Brilliant. She, as you do, you're in a motel, you can't really go anywhere, so in the bathroom you go, lock the door, killer comes in, she jumps out the bathroom window. Oh, there's your first moment.
Yes.
Prosthetics at its best.
Well, this, I would have to say, actually, this whole scene does it. What they've done cleverly is although it's like this, this is where the meta remake bit comes in, because each kill scene does mirror the original movie. Yes. So there is a scene in the original movie where a troop comes back to his long-awaiting girlfriend, and they go and, but what they have done fairly nicely is dial up the the violence of the gore to modern standards, and yeah, that dropping out of the window bit made me just go, oh fuck. And that was like my first visceral reaction in the movie, and I always like to have that in a movie, so that's good.
Oh yeah, they played that really well. So naturally he catches up with her, and she meets her maker, to glorious blood splattered effects. A lot of blood. I just loved it. I can just imagine someone sitting in that car just with a cup, just throwing it on the windows, throwing it on that window, throwing it on that window, throwing it on that window. Brilliant. And this, so you just know this killer is brutal. I mean, he's obviously a pretty strong guy. He's got some oomph behind him. Or girl. And he just takes no prisoners. He's there to do a job. He's there to kill these people for whatever reason. And that's it. And then we get the town hall meeting. Oh, I loved this. It was where you really learn the two different mayors, the two different sides of the town, and you just meet some yokels. Some Bible-bashing, GDing it yokels. There's some lovely characters there. Yeah. I'd like to think that they're just actual people that just pulled off the street. I don't know. Probably not true.
Yeah, they probably have to look very hard, did they?
The old guy, GD this and GD that and GD this. He's my favourite. I can just picture some of the old people around here just being exactly like that. They like their Bible, they don't like such and such, and they're not afraid to stand up for themselves in front of the mayor and the local sheriffs. And then what do we have from there? So we're going to get a little bit intercuts coming in for Jamie decides to do some research of her own. And then we have probably one of the best entrances in a horror movie of a non-killer. Lone Wolf. Stand back, boys. The Texas Rangers are in charge.
See, again, that's another nod to the original.
Yeah.
His hat is impressive in the original as well.
I did read it. Oh, I want one of their hats now. It just looks so cool in the silhouette, and I'm just like, you can walk in places, ma'am, take it off. I'm kind of jealous of the hat, actually.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to lose my UK-ness. Help! It's scary. I would never have said that 5 years ago. But no, I just thought that was one of the best introductions. Just awesome. And then even better when you find out it's the dude from Transformers.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, it took me a long time. I was like, I know you. You can't be the dude from Transformers. You lost a lot of weight. Hang on a second, is it you? It took me out the movie for a while till I actually stopped it, and I had to IMDb it just to make sure that it was him. Completely different type of character.
Yeah, I mean, he was typecast for a lot of years. There's another film he was in years ago called... he was in Romeo Must Die with Jet Li, and he was also in Cradle to the Grave, I believe. I might have got that one mixed up with DMX. I'm pretty sure he's in that movie as well. And he's always the same overweight, bumbling buffoon kind of thing. But a few years ago, I saw him on... it's some kind of crime procedural cop show, and it's completely straight. He is not the clown,
really?
And he's actually become a bit of a hard-ass cop action hero type character. And he does it really well. He's really convincing, and I thought, I can't take this guy seriously. But like as you said, you didn't notice at first because he's playing it straight, and he's not that bumbling div anymore. And I'm happy for him that he's turned that around because he's clearly said, done with this character now. I'm a serious actor.
Yes.
Let me play some serious roles. I think he does really well in this.
I think he did so too. Yeah, he played it really straight. A couple of little comical bits for him, but. He was really into that and really believable. And
because he's a naturally funny guy, so he's always going to bring his own personality to it, which is, he's going to be funny, but he can play it straight really well.
Yes, which he does.
We really should look up his name, shouldn't
we? I've got his name somewhere in my notes. What is it? Anthony Anderson?
Anthony Anderson. Okay, I shall remember his name now.
Anthony Anderson. Yes. Lone Wolf Morales.
Yeah.
What's his line? I don't know. He's kind of egotistical and he believes he's earned it or something like that. Or I think highly of myself and I believe I've earned it. So, yeah, maybe when I get older, that's what I'll do. Hey, Lone Wolf, that's my name. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can try that. Don't think the wife would go for it. Anyway.
If you got the hat, I'm sure you could pull it off.
If I could get the hat, that's what I'll do. I'll go shopping one day and come back with that hat. Lone Wolf. Change my name. Maybe I'll do that if I ever get my citizenship.
You need the accent too, though, dude. You'd need the accent.
No, me and accents don't go. We're not doing that. We lost Australia the last time I did an accent. Then we get some lovely scenes, speeding things up. Where Jamie meets Nick, this guy who's the archivist, mentioned in the synopsis. He shares all the information from all the old newspapers.
Yeah, this is just the to Google section of the film.
Yes. But keeping it kind of in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like say you don't want to bring it up, so what would you do in the 70s? You would go through the microfiche.
Yes.
Which is they have to point out. You know what that is? That's a microfiche thing.
Yes.
Throw that away, but I said keep it. Okay. Weirdo.
It's a really weird sequence that with the microfiche.
Yeah.
It's a really odd, almost cyberpunky edit, but there's some really cool stuff like the writing scrolling across her eyes. But like some of the style of that reminds me a little bit of Requiem for a Dream. There's some really like creative ways of editing and shooting in this movie. If you're interested in that kind of thing, I would definitely say you got to watch it. Sorry.
There's a lot that you're fine. There's a lot that's for me was very jarring, because it didn't seem to settle into a standard style. There was it was almost as though, to me, there was like 3 or 4 different kind of teams going around, and it was like, okay, you're directing this bit, so you can do whatever you want with your guys and however you want to shoot it. And you're doing this bit, and you're doing this bit, and you're doing this bit. And then
like
we're just going to take it all together and edit it together. Yes.
Each unit had its own style. Well,
yeah. To me,
I'm
that's
sure
sorry.
I would say it must have been done on purpose.
I would imagine it would be done on purpose, yeah.
Mm.
But that was what I was when I was watching it. That's what I kept running through my head was, okay, is this what's going on here? Why are we going for so many different? From the very first, not the very first, from the hospital scene, after the first major scene, that's what I was starting to go. All these different camera shots and things like that, and it was like very jarring at times. Let's say you thought you were in the 70s, and then you get your CGI scroll across the eyes, and you're like, what are you doing here? Are you trying to bring me up to date, or are you just trying to show me you're flashy, that you've got some money, that you've got some style, that who your influences are? What's going on?
But they've
while
got some
keeping
different
all the cliches.
Yeah, I mean, it's really different colour palettes as well. Like, the cop stuff's really green, and then when she's at home, it's all very yellowy, goldy. It's they've got. But none of it took me out of it. You see, I only sort of noticed that looking back again at it. Okay. I started to sort of examine it a bit more closely. The initial run through, I didn't find any of that jarring. So,
interesting because it kept taking me out.
Okay.
Just because it was different, and it was completely different from when I thought I was comfortable in the setting, or his style. Just something like that would take me back out and go, you're watching a movie. You're like, oh, okay. I know.
Okay.
Oops. Because this is a typical scene where you're getting, like, say, to the Google, or you've got the archivist going, "Hi, remember me? I remember you. You sat here and here, and I'm not creepy and stalkerish at all." So he's obviously got a bit of a thing for her, and she's an attractive lady. So, yeah, if he's kind of in high school and they're both kind of loners, then you can imagine him almost kind of leering at her from the back of the classroom.
If you're like me, you would suspect him immediately.
I get, yes. He gets kind of shot sometimes that way. You just see the eyes and you're like, yeah, it could be you. And from at this point in the movie, I thought maybe 4 different people were doing it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of different things said by people or looks. You're like, no, you, no shit, no, it's you. Oh no, it could be you.
Yeah.
So I like the way it kind of keeps you on edge that way. But so she's doing some investigation, and where are we? He meets the grandmother, I think. Is he meeting her at this point?
No, in between she gets an email from the killer.
Oh, in between, yes, that's right.
And she ends up in the police station with the porridge eating scene, which is just so random.
It's Gary Cole.
Eating porridge, interviewing her. But, okay.
But he's a very knowledgeable man. So she keeps trying to... I just love Gary Cole. He's amazing. She keeps trying to go in here, hey, I've researched this. I know what I'm talking about. And she's like, do you know who this is? And he's like, yeah, such and such. He's been in jail for 30 years. Shit. What about him? Oh, well, yeah, he saw him last week. He's dead. And he's just like, boom. He knows everything that's going on. He's just like, screw you, Lone Wolf. I know what's going on here. I'm the clever guy. I'm not about to be talked to by a 17-year-old girl who thinks that just because she can read a newspaper and thinks of herself as a little bit of a journalist or whatever, she's going to tell me what to do.
Yeah, in between mouthfuls of porridge.
But obviously. Yeah. I don't know. I bet that wasn't the original script. I bet he brought that and went, I'm going to eat this, and you're going to shoot because I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I just love Gary Cole.
Yeah, so
Gary,
basically...
I'd like to meet you.
Sorry. Go.
You go.
No, because I'm going to take it away. You carry on.
Oh, no, you can take it away?
Okay. Because obviously at this point she's getting emails. Well, she's getting contacted by the killer, and they're like, "Oh, is it him?" It's like, "Well, it's definitely him." And again, he's banging on about make them remember and that kind of stuff. But he clearly has an interest in her.
Yeah, she's his vessel. I think to get the story out, or scale the town, make the town remember what actually happened. Yeah. Remember Mary. This is for Mary. Mary's a popular is the key here. Yeah. And then we have then Nick comes, gives us some more details because he's obviously been researching this behind the scenes, and gives us some more information on what was happening around the time they were making the movie, the '76 movie. And he's like, "Hey, there's a vigil at school. Shall we go? For the Corey and the what do you call it, the Marine and his girlfriend." So they go. Quite a nice little scene. You get there's a lot of people there. The cops are there watching. I'm not sure if there's any camera crews and stuff there. If there any reporters or what. I think there might have been. I can't remember.
I don't remember. Doesn't matter.
No, I can't remember. I'm now struggling because I thought maybe I saw a camera there, but I can't. Maybe I was making that up. So and as they're there, who would appear? The killer. Dun, dun,
yeah, and I was like, "Oh, fuck me, that's ballsy!" Just walk into a flipping. Well, not a seance. I was going to say a seance.
A vigil.
That's a bit different to a vigil. Yeah, a vigil.
Just a little bit different.
I was quite well impressed by that. I was like, "What?"
And then all you hear is bang, bang, bang. As one of the Marines that were there shoot him. He knows he's in the wrong. As soon as he's shot him and the guy's down, he's like, arrest me. I'm not fighting with you. You can take me. I've done it.
Yeah.
He's avenged his buddy.
Yeah.
And avenged him in style. And then we get the wonderful scene where we obviously have to tell the mayor. You see which is very strange. If you're going to go tell the mayor, why would you have your lights on in the car? I mean, I don't know. It was just very strange to me. But the sheriff comes in, tells the mayor tells everybody, and then bizarrely there is kind of, I don't know, restaurant, country club type place. Very somber music. And the mayor's like, okay, we've caught the killer. Let's just turn this into a party.
That's so weird.
Like, okay.
Praise Jesus, let's party.
Yeah. I'm like, I guess that's kind of doable. I don't know. Having never been in a town that lived in fear.
Well, yeah.
I'm not sure. Or maybe it's just, it's America for you. And then we cut to one of the bizarrest scenes in the entire movie that I think I've ever seen. Again, with, I think, 3 different units doing their own camera work here. As 2 boys decide to, or who have been in the band, and again, an awesome little Gary Cole scene. As the kids walk past the car and he's putting the lights on and he's like, straight home now. Just like,
yeah.
Okay. What? Probably just giving him more screen time. Kids drive off into the best junkyard ever for old signs.
It's wicked.
It's like, obviously, in a 5,000 mile radius or something, this is where all the signs come to die. It's amazing.
Yeah, great spot for a bit of product placement.
It's everything that's there. Kids pull in, are talking about, I remember we used to come here and smoke cigarettes and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, so they're coming here to smoke newfangled cigarettes.
Yeah, the funny thing is they park in front of a poster of the Reverend who was at the event they were just playing music at. A massive, 20-foot billboard of his face.
It's funny. And then it gets even better when we find out what they're actually there for.
Yeah, they want to smoke something else. And
they want to have some sexy time of their own.
Yeah, but it's kind of sweet because it's clearly their first time. They've, 2 lads have gone out to experiment. And he's like, well, do what? He says, do that. Well, what do you mean that? It's like, well, do you want to suck that? That's really awkward, kind of. How do you first have that conversation? But, unfortunately for them, they are in a convertible car.
Yes.
So this character appears in front of the car, and one of them starts the engine, goes to drive off. The other kid realises the other one's not a very good driver, I think, because he just jumps out of the car and legs it. Yeah. So fuck you can drive off, I'm running.
Pretty much. Only to be smacked in the head by a shovel, I think. Or something like that.
It's fast, I didn't really see what it was, but...
Yeah, but they both get smacked in the head.
Yeah. And this is the redo of the famous trombone scene. Which in the original movie, I sort of watched that scene, I was thinking, well, we're talking 70s, we're talking the time of some really pretty harsh gore, some really, in your face, you're thinking like some of the Lucio Fulci stuff and things like that, and you're like, well, maybe it was quite visceral. But actually, again, this is that scene I said there was no soundtrack. And but basically what he does is he lashes a knife to the end of a trombone arm and then pretends to play the trombone, and as it goes out, he stabs with a knife. Stabs this girl. And... well, no, in the original.
Oh, in the original
it's the
movie,
girl,
sorry,
yeah.
Yes.
Because they're basically prom king and queen, I think, in the first film. And she has the trombone, like she's doing something with it, I can't remember what it was. And basically it's in the car, so he just uses what's at hand, being a creative slasher type. And he ties her to a tree, and he does it, 2 or 3 times, and he just pushes out really violently, and you don't see the knife, she goes, and the sound effects really not very squelchy or visceral. So this time, they've really redressed the balance of it, and you see this kid is one of the boys, he lashes to one of the signs up quite high up, like a display almost, and he stabs him a lot. quite violently with this trombone. And they do a little cut back to the original as well, like a little cutaway edit there.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool little scene, actually.
It is. It's just the brutality of the killer. For me, anyway, it's just, I mean, this guy's got some oomph on him. He is obviously, just copying all the kills from the previous movie.
Yeah. It's a copycat case, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And he's already the guy that ran away and they get hit by the shovel or what. He's disposed of. He gets shot. With just a regular gun. He looks as though he's been beaten up pretty badly.
He does, yeah.
And you get the other kid, the kid that's getting trombone stabbed. You can see from his viewpoint is Phantom. The letters of various signs spelled out to say Phantom.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Which is very pretty.
Yeah.
And then I think there's another shot once he actually finally dead. There's another shot of some sign saying Legacy on another part of the.
Oh, you're a shrewd one. I didn't spot that either.
So, there's this Phantom. I mean, he does his homework. He's he's spending a lot of time doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's not just chasing these kids and killing them quickly. Which is an interesting aspect as to how he manages to turn up in these places at the right time.
Yeah. But they also do this brilliant... They do the classic of he chases, but he never runs, but he always gets his man or woman or victim, which I like, because you've always got to have that.
Oh, yes.
But by this time, the police have pretty much noticed that he's copying the film, so they're watching the film at the cop shop and like... Oh, so what happened next? Oh, 2 people at a farm die. Oh, gee, there's no fucking farms around here, is there? Just pick one of 8 million.
Yeah, exactly. We're screwed. And also, because these 2 kids got killed, they realise that the person that got shot at the school isn't actually the killer.
Yes.
He was just a poor teenager, depressed teenager, who wanted to commit suicide. Yeah. Which is a bit of a sad story, but yeah, they didn't get their man, so the mayor's party was a little bit premature.
I'll say,
really should wait for the kind of full judicial process there. I guess that's Texas law for you.
Yeah, at least wait till the killer's been ID'd. There's a bit shit on their part.
Yeah,
they rushed off to tell him so fast. It's like, can you just take the sack off his head before you left?
Well, I think it's Texas law. We're going to go with that.
Okay.
And then on Christmas Eve, cops go to see the Reverend Cartwright, where we find out that he was the one who sent the emails.
Yes.
To our lovely Jamie. Because why? Because he wants to scare people into his church.
That's got to get him in there somehow. Let's face it.
Yep, he did. Makes the comment that as these kills are happening, everyone's running to his church looking for salvation.
Yeah. Actually, just before that bit, there is that terrible cringeworthy scene where the archive lad, Ash, is it? He's in the car with her and she's bearing her soul about how she lost her parents, and he does that age-old mistake that teenagers seem to make in movies: is girl is vulnerable, crying and upset about something, so I'll try and stick my tongue in her face. And gets rebuffed, obviously.
Yes. She's like, "What you doing?" Get out. Get out now. And he's like,
"Oh, okay.
What? You serious?" She's like, "No, I'm scared." Dumbass.
Yeah.
But yeah, it had to be in there, didn't it? I forgot about that one. But then they make up.
Yeah.
So they do. They kiss and make up on Christmas Eve. He buys her a gift. They walk through a nice little street with the weirdest security lights ever.
Yes. They're just
a nice little scene.
Everybody in the neighbourhood has set their security light to 3.5 seconds. So as you walk down the street, it comes on, you walk past, it goes off. It comes on, you walk past, it goes off.
Yeah, I have a security light in my backyard, and if I had to set for that length of time, it would drive me nuts.
Yes.
Or I'd be epileptic. One of the two.
It's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds at least.
Yeah, exactly. But then we get the
almost like they're
Mr. Cole.
foreshadowing.
Oh, exactly. I was trying to avoid that bit.
Sorry.
It's okay. Then we have Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole hits the bar. He's had a rough day. You know, he's arrested the preacher, one of the town's most popular people.
Yes.
Meets a woman, who he knows, appears to know kind of well. And then we get a cutaway scene to Mr. Cole getting his sexy time.
Oh yes,
as the lady is making Mr. Cole pleasurable. And what happens when you have sexy time in a horror movie? You die.
Yes.
in a lovely way. you just get this quick reaction as he sees the killer outside the window.
Yeah, he died with a smile on his face.
He did smile with a smile on his face, and that woman had no idea what was going on at first. And then she got a shock.
Yes.
And then we get a lovely scene as she runs into a kind of cornfield type-esque thing.
And again, this mirrors the original again. Sort of, it's more drawn out on this one, and you've got the nice aerial shots as well to show how difficult it is to crawl through a cornfield, and how hard it can be to spot someone when you're actually in it walking around.
Yeah. It's a great little scene, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's again. I think these. On the surface, none of these are really that imaginative. They're not, oh, no one's ever done this before, or anything like that. But I think that the way it's shot is so well handled, and it's really well edited. And again, he's always walking, never runs. So
yeah.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to. He's patient. He knows he's going to get his victim.
Yeah. Of course, if you do crawl through a cornfield, you tend to leave a track. So once he finds that track, it's like breadcrumbs. Thank you very much. She's crawling, he's walking. Not hard to find. And
No, really
she ends up as a scarecrow.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
To which you get the weird, when the family coming out, is it family coming out and finding her?
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of weird merging scene.
That is brilliant.
Of them seeing her and then it actually being shot. Or that scene being shot in the original movie.
Yeah, it's really clever because it goes away from them spotting her as the scarecrow. The camera pans around to a guy with a clapperboard, and then it's a Steadicam shot, and it follows them round, and the film crew are there, and you see the guy with the hood shooting through the window, the building, and then it goes all the way around. It's just this really kinetic shot, all in one. I really enjoyed that. That was cool.
It was a very neat transition. Into there, and then that led us quite nicely into Nick and Jamie's visit to the son of the director.
Yeah.
Who we had saw previously before in the town hall meeting, just kind of in the back, muttering under his breath or trying to speak or whatever, and obviously can't through the Bible bashers.
And he was also in the bar when Gary Cole picks up his lady friend, I think, as well. Looking creepy, because there's a couple of times you're just like, it's him, he did it.
Yeah, another, yeah. My list is now up to 10 possibles. And then you get to hear his take on who the actual killer was. He's got a very interesting take that apparently this guy, Benjamin Sewell, the Texas side of the town, caught him and said he did it. But then it turns out that another guy, Hank McCready, got killed. Or got run over by a train or something like that. And it's his belief that was the last kill.
Yeah.
But he wasn't actually run over by a train because his wife had an autopsy done and that he was stabbed God knows how many times. So it's his belief that Hank McCready was the last kill and he couldn't have been killed when Benjamin Sewell was in prison. So the real phantom's out there. And then he goes into guess the name of Hank McCready's wife.
Mary.
There you go. That's the Mary that needs to remember.
Yeah.
So
there's a great little cutaway of a dismembered body on the train tracks. It's like a second.
Oh.
It's just like, oh, brutal. Ow. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, yeah. And then we learn all about, okay, who is it? It's the son? No, it could be the grandson, because he seems to be fits in well with the time frame, because I think this son was dead as well. But Jamie doesn't believe him, because there was no mention of this guy in the papers. So if there's no mention in the papers, it can't possibly be him, surely. But then they realise, hang on a second, because there's no mention of him in the papers, then that could really be the grandson, because that would do him a major injustice. Nobody talks about how his grandfather died, or anything like that. So maybe this could be him. And sorry, I got a bang at the door, and it scared the crap out of me.
Sorry.
Okay. And we go, okay, so end of day, that's where we think we are. We think we're on the right track now. It's going to be him. We're going to be an investigation. We're going to tell everybody. Everything's going to be great. And we get home, and Grandma says, yeah, we're moving.
Yeah.
We're moving tomorrow.
Yep, fuck this place.
Yes. Because Jamie has been hiding letters from universities accepting her.
Yeah.
And Grandma's either found them or broken federal law by tampering with mail, and it wasn't hers.
String her up.
Yes. And she found out, hey, you got a second acceptance letter from Cal State. We're going. That's it. Spoken to your uncle who just happens to live in California. We're going. We're going to live with him. That's it. We're moving. We're going tomorrow. Okay. So obviously Jamie has to text Nick and say, Nick, or whatever, I don't know what she says, but Nick comes over.
Yeah. It's your last chance to get some because I'm leaving town, so come get some.
Yeah.
It's a booty call, basically.
Yeah, pretty much is. She's going to get some. Or maybe she's getting some.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Either way, they get some. And which really is strange because all this time the cops watching the front door, Nick just walks in the back.
Yeah, they're really efficient, the cops. Yeah.
Good old local cops. They're never going to walk in the back door. Never. Nice little scene again between the two of them. She's inside, he's outside. You can see his reflection on the window.
Yeah.
It's a very, very cute little scene.
There's some really creative shots.
Yeah.
And lots of really good Steadicam use. And I love the way it's lit. I know you found it, Jarrett. I love the way it's lit.
And it's very bright.
Yeah, it's almost like heaven's starlight is upon the two star-crossed lovers. It's very...
Oh.
Yeah, it's...
I never thought of it like that before. Yeah. I like that. And because they've had the sexy time and we can't kill the little girl, bye-bye, Nick.
Yeah. It's the rules. Somebody has to die.
Yes. And this is where the foreshadowing of the security lights coming on and off.
Yes.
Comes in, and I was waiting. You're waiting on it. You knew it was going to happen. You knew there was something coming.
Yeah.
But it did make me jump a little bit, just because they turned the sound up, and I was kind of, damn it! You got me one light too quick. I thought I had one more light in me. But yeah, poor Nick. So then we get the scene. Jamie hands over all her research to the cop out front. He says, "Oh yeah, we're leaving." He says, "Oh yeah, your grandma told me." Okay, this is Hank McCreary. We think this is his grandson. Go do it if we ever want. We're leaving. Got to go obviously to a little stop in the store just before we leave town. Grandma's never left town, so she's feeling a bit emotional, a bit excited.
You missed the bit where she wakes up in bed facing her dead previous boyfriend, though.
Oh yeah, we missed that. Oh yeah,
that freaked me the fuck out. Bit of a dreamscape sequence. Yeah. She just she opens her eyes to look at her lover, and it's just glassy, milky eyes and blood all over the face of the I can't remember his name, guy who dies at the beginning. And he just gets up and Corey, and walks out of the bedroom into the woods, which are right next to her bedroom. That's again, I don't. It's there for artistic sake. It's not a plot device or anything.
No,
but it's just it's nice.
But it does kind of hark back to that counsellor scene, because she mentions that she's having dreams of Corey, but you haven't really seen anything before that.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe they cut something that hit they cut it out before that, but I kind of hark back to that a little bit and kind of close that loop.
The guilt of getting some sort of brings it to the fore, maybe.
Yeah, just thinking, this should have been Corey, but it's you.
Yeah.
Oh well. So yeah, they're leaving town to stop, get some drinks, some water, whatever. Paying at probably one of the oldest cash registers ever. But it still takes credit cards, so you still got a little credit card machine just hiding off to the side there.
Apple Pay.
Yeah. And then, what was that noise? Did you hear a noise? Okay. Oh, hang on a second. There's some more noises. Someone out there is shooting some guns.
Yeah.
As we go out to find the old guy pumping gas is now dead. Lots of blood again. But poor Grandma. She's never going to get to leave Texas.
Who is the lady who plays Grandma? I know her from
Veronica Cartwright.
Well, I know she's been in a lot, but there's something really specific, and I cannot place it. I'm not gonna.
Alien.
Oh yes, of course, fucking Alien. I'm a moron. I was like the whole film going, she's really familiar. God, I do that so
She was
much.
also on The Birds as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's Alien for me all the way. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, played Lambert.
Yeah.
Just to put her proper name there.
He is.
But yeah, she's very good. But she gets it, unfortunately. Oh, poor Grandma never leaves Texas. Although, really, she lives in a town that borders 2 states, and she couldn't have just walked to the other side of town and been in Arkansas for fucking 5 minutes. Anyway, sorry. I won't even go there. I just did. But yeah, so they're obviously the killer, who is good at playing trombones and other things, was also a crack shot with a sniper rifle.
Yes, apparently.
Yes, this is Texas after all, so I mean it's nothing major. He probably got it at Walmart down the street. So Jamie runs away because and the poor store clerk, he comes out to check what's going on, and he bites it too. That's a bit cruel. I mean, a young kid didn't do anything wrong. Maybe shortchanged him one day or something. So Jamie picks up her purse and runs away. And the kid, like as you say, killer just strolls down there. I'm coming to get you.
Never runs once. Doesn't run once.
Nope. She goes in, I don't know, some sort of city hall, town hall, I think maybe it was.
Something like that.
She gets into, it's obviously chained up, but that doesn't matter. She can get in there. He can get in there too, play a little game of hide and seek. This being the 21st century, he obviously calls on the cell phone, and that gives it away. Vibrate, people. If you're ever running away from a killer with your cell phone on you, put it on vibrate. Yeah. How many people has that killed? Tons.
Yes.
She jumps out the building. We don't get any moments here.
No.
And just so happens...
Until she trips over the train track.
Yes. Conveniently manages to land beside her chopped-up lover. I mean, that's perfect placement right there. This killer knows what he's doing.
He's basically he's the human equivalent of a sheepdog. Because he manages to herd her to exactly where the body of her boyfriend is laid.
Oh, yeah.
On the train track.
Not 6 feet away or anything like that. Right there.
Yeah. But, and this time you're thinking, how the hell did he kill him, get there, set up a sniper position, kill her grandmother, like dump the body? You go, yeah, you're starting to really doubt what's going on here.
No, you're worrying about kind of logistics.
Yes.
Serial killer logistics. These guys are clever. I mean, he can shoot.
Yeah.
And play trombone.
And he's pretty good at archery, it seems.
He is, yeah. He's obviously watching a lot of the Hunger Games. Katniss
Walking Dead.
Is his new person. Oh, Walking Dead. Okay.
Oh, it's a crossbow. Sorry.
I haven't got to that bit. I haven't got to that bit yet. So, but again, Hunter, Texas.
Yeah.
I kind of came to me that one. Maybe it was turkey season because that's starting here. I'm not turning into one of them. But yeah, and then do we go as far as talking about this bit, or do we leave it there?
I think we should just stop.
And things happen.
Yeah, I'm not ruining the twist on this one.
And the movie
ends. Gee, wish we'd caught that killer. Shame he got away. The end.
Dun, dun, dun. And there we have the movie.
Yeah.
Okay. The first time I watched it, I struggled with it a lot.
Okay.
And I probably came out of it thinking, I can see what they were doing. Remember how I mentioned the other day, I think we were watching, not the other day, the other show when we were talking about 88, and I said, it's a little bit clever, and sometimes I'm not really the one to get these kind of things. I thought that's what he was trying to do with the camera shots, and say, hey, look how clever I am, and some people will get this, and some people won't, because if you've seen this director's back catalogue, you'll know that this is one of his styles and things like that. So I thought I'm missing something. It kept taking me out, and I thought the acting was really bad, and I wasn't really buying Jamie, who I've just found out, by the way, plays Stormy in Odd Thomas. How did I not put those two together?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Oh. Oh, thank you, IMDb. But I thought I didn't like the acting. I really didn't like this, and I was like, you know what? This is just one of these movies. Boz is going to love it, and I'm going to hate it, and I'm going to be the fucking downer on this. And then I went back. We decided we were going to do this as a proper special. So I went back and watched it again so I could take some notes. Probably not the best notes in the world, but I tried to take some notes. And as I was watching it, I was going, hang on a second, I'm liking this. I'm liking this more and more than I did the first time round.
It's one of those.
I knew what to expect.
It's one of those. Did you, a second time round, were you more forgiving of the acting? Because one thing I never had a problem with in this movie was any of the acting.
No, I don't know if I was more forgiving or I was like, okay, this is the way they're playing it, so I now know what they're going for. This is just the way she is. So I don't know if I was more forgiving or I was just like, okay, I know what I'm expecting now, so I'm not going to get taken out of it. This is just the way she's playing it. But it did get better. Everything got better. Every scene that annoyed me to begin with, I was like, oh, I like this. Oh, yeah, this is quite clever. And I was kind of went along with it a lot more. And it's only like 80 minutes long. I mean, this thing's not long at all. It flies through at a great pace. Yeah. And that pace is kind of probably so some of the things you don't actually think about, some of the plot things. But I really enjoyed this. And I'm not just saying that because we were invited to something. I really did. That's why I'm going to be honest and say the first time I watched it, I didn't. I would have probably come out and said it was a 22 on the scale. But I've now bumped that up a whole. I'm pushing it over the 3, and maybe putting it at 34. I think there's still some flaws in it. But it's a solid kind of slasher movie that you don't have to have seen the 1976 version. You don't have to know anything about that. No. This is a standalone movie on its own, and I think it does it really well. But it took me 2 viewings to get there.
Okay. I think the more I learned about it, the more I started to appreciate it, and I'm the same. I did like it first time round, but I liked it more once I learned some more and then had another look at it, which I know we don't always do. And ladies and gentlemen, there will come the time where Gordon does exactly the same thing, and he goes back and has the appropriate amount of alcohol, watches Evil Dead 2, and discovers how wrong he's been for so long, and that there's just amazing merit in the same way for that film. But anyway, moving on. But yeah, just stylistically, I loved it, and like I say, when I went sort of looked into some of the background and saw the original, which you don't have to do that. I may have skipped parts, okay. But the whole the relationship with the original film, the original events, is actually it's really well done. There is that whole moral dilemma of, for the families who lost people in 1946, is it the sort of thing that should be celebrated? Because is this celebrating it? I wouldn't say it was.
No, but it's bringing it back up again.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, these, in actual real life now, you are, okay, maybe there's the people who are around in 1946, 47, whatever, aren't still alive, maybe. Or they were just babies at the time. But yeah, you've got this kind of second coming of those horrific events that did happen in that town. So yeah, this is based on real life.
Yeah,
people did die, and yeah, we are laughing about it and talking about it and things. But yeah, this could be kind of raw for some people.
So it's something to consider in and amongst everything else. But it is, as an artistic piece, if you want to get poncy about things, I love the style of all of it. And sort of analysing it further, looking again, was just I realised why. I just sort of absorb it all as a thing and go, yeah, I liked it. Then with films, I have to sometimes go back and go, why did I like it? And a lot of that stuff that you found jarring, it's interesting, you found it jarring first time through, is the stuff that hooked me in. Because the actual the murders and the storyline isn't anything all that original. It's just handled really, really well, and with that whole sort of meta relationship with the previous stuff, I think it works really well. Now, something else interesting happened as a result of being in touch with our new friend Sarah.
Yes,
she also there's a young man called Graham Humphries. Who some people may know as a rather famous movie poster illustrator. And he did a limited run, I think it's 50 prints for the Town That Dreaded Sundown. Hand-painted, old-school movie poster for it. Now, if you don't know who he is, if you've ever seen that poster of Nightmare on Elm Street where Nancy's lying in bed, the blue poster, and Freddy's hand with the glove is coming over her head... Or maybe the Evil Dead posters, the hand-painted ones with the evil head coming out of the trapdoor. Yeah, he kind of made those. So he's responsible for some of the most iconic artwork in horror. And, well, I won't say too much. But, needless to say, Sarah set us up, and I had the very great privilege of interviewing him this week. So we're actually going to play you pretty much out, I think, with my interview with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, do you have anything to say, Gordon? Because again, because of time difference and it being midweek, Gordon couldn't join us, unfortunately. But
no, unfortunately not. He was a gentleman that I didn't know by name.
Me either, to be honest.
And when the invitation came through saying, hey, yeah, he did this artwork, and I looked at the poster and went, hey, that's awesome. And then we got his name, and I looked into opened his website. GrahamHumphries.com. I was like, I know that. That's Fright Fest poster.
Yes.
I know all this. And it was just like, wow, it's just one of these guys that you just take for granted that, hey, he just created the poster.
Yeah.
He just did some artwork. I mean, it's nothing there, and it was like, wow, yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't mean anything to me kind of as a name, but you can appreciate the artwork that's there, and like, wow, okay, I did know this guy all along, but just unfortunately never learned his name.
And I love that this sort of thing makes you learn somebody's name like that, and you end up remembering it. And obviously the thing is, he's such a really genuinely nice bloke. I had a really good chat with him, and I was like, oh, I'll keep it short. This should be half an hour sort of thing. We were on the phone, I think 55 minutes, something like that in total in the end. Because with the Fright Fest tie-in and everything else. And if you look on our Facebook group, there's a picture of me at Fright Fest last year standing outside the View West End with a bag over my shoulder and this huge Fright Fest poster stuck to the front of the building. And it's like, he created that. And you're thinking, oh, it's such a... I love sometimes how this is a fairly small world, the horror sort of circle. Yeah. And I love that we're sort of making inroads into it more. And... It's a great community, and it's one we're very happy to be involved with. The other thing is we'd finished recording our little bit for the show, and then we just basically went into, what did you think of this film from last year's Fright Fest, because he was there. Yeah, we had a nice chat about was it Shockwave Dark Side 3D and how it was projected wrong, and just everybody left with a headache. I was like, oh, you watched that? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, wasn't it bad?
Awesome.
So yeah, we had a really good chat.
Yes.
It's also looking like I might make Fright Fest this year after all.
Oh,
plans
really?
have shifted again. So hopefully I'll bump into him this year at Fright Fest. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. Okay, well, you've heard what we have to say, people. And just before we get you into the interview, which you are going to enjoy, I've heard some snippets from it. Trust me, he is a lovely guy. And I'm not talking just about Mr. Boss.
Thank you.
Send the usual feedback, please, to podofhorrors at simplysyndicated.com. Go along to the Facebook page, and really do encourage you to check this out. If you didn't like it the first time, do watch it again. And I don't think 80 minutes, that's nothing. I think you'll appreciate it more the second time round.
Yeah, and if you could drag some more of your friends along to Facebook to replace the 40 people we lost who were clearly robots or bots or something, yeah, it just makes our likes figures look better.
It does. It gets us closer to that next magic marker.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get the hell out of here and listen to Boss's interview with Graham.
Yeah, it was cool. So everybody, this is a really exciting part of the podcast today. This is a very rare treat. We have with us Graham, who is an illustrator and graphic designer, and he's responsible for some of the most iconic painted horror art ever. Stuff you've all seen, know, and love. And Graham's done a fantastic poster for the Town That Dreaded Sundown, and he's agreed to join us today to chat about this movie coming out and the poster he's done for it. So thank you for joining us, sir.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, I have to say.
Could I ask how you become involved in doing poster art sort of in the first place?
It's probably not something that happened by intention. It's just that I went through the art college route of learning to become a graphic designer and found that all my solutions were tending towards illustration. So in my final year, decided that that's where I should specialise, and we had some visiting lecturers who would instruct me on the ways they worked, and then I learned a bit about the business from them. So when I left college, I moved to London and started seeking work with a very limited portfolio, and going through magazines, record companies, book publishers, whoever I thought could give me work. And yes, it was a struggle for quite a long time, but I think in the back of my head, because I've always loved horror films, I kind of thought, it'd be great to actually just get involved in film poster work. And so I began to target various companies. I probably sort of aimed way too high initially, and I sort of went to places like, I guess, Universal, Fox, all these other big places, and eventually ended up going to the Scala Cinema, which is where Palace Pictures had encamped, and they literally just started a distribution business. And their second film was The Evil Dead. So although I'd actually done a couple of posters previously, I don't regard them as being particularly important pieces, simply because, number one, I feel they're not very good pieces of work and don't really best represent what I wanted to do and what I wanted to start doing, whereas the Evil Dead UK campaign was absolutely what I wanted to be. And actually, they were very good in allowing me to experiment in the way I thought best, and they absolutely trusted me to deliver the job, and that was the beginning of a very happy relationship.
Oh, excellent. So you're given pretty much free rein design-wise. Did they ever try and sort of box you in and say, we really want something along these lines, or is it just go for your life with what inspires you?
No, not at all, really. I think they'd just expected me, because they knew I knew my genre stuff quite well. I love the films, and they kind of expected that I would supply the best kind of visual reaction for them. I mean, certainly at the point where we did The Evil Dead 2, that was very much a process of following on from the sort of success of the first film and the way it was marketed, and obviously emulating that as best as possible. But when it came to, for instance, A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a very different kind of film, changed for that one. I mean, I try to tailor everything I do in a way that's appropriate for the film, and so we've got two very, very different pieces of work. And it's true, a lot of people hadn't twigged that it's actually the same person who had done both those posters. But it's one of those things. It's you kind of find yourself doing pieces of work sometimes which are out of the area people know you for, and it's interesting when people do look at my work, perhaps through the website or through some other sort of means, that they are often quite surprised to see that I've done something which they're familiar with but haven't realised it was my work as well.
I mean, it's when I was looking at things like that, there were several designs I didn't realise were you. And it's I I wasn't surprised when I found out, if that makes any sense.
Of course.
But it was stylistically very, very different.
I should say there's not more stuff out there which I hope you'll never see, which I've done. It's not just this off genre, shall we say, but it's stuff that you have to do as a jobbing artist. You freelance, you just have to exist and make a living somehow, feed yourself and, pay your rent and everything. So, there's a lot of stuff out there which I've done over the years, which, hopefully nobody will ever see.
Well, weirdly, I think it was about a year and a half ago, I was in a little sort of comic book shop in London, trying to remember what street it was off. Great little place, lots of retro stuff, and they got the big frames full of old movie posters. And if I'd had the money, that Evil Dead 2 poster would be behind me right now. But it was £250, people. £250. But I wanted it.
It's probably what I got paid to actually paint it in the first place, I think.
It's a shame you don't get resale royalties, I suppose.
No, exactly.
So, how did you get involved with the film we're talking about here today, the Town That Dreaded Sundown?
Sundown, yes, the very long title. Through Metrodome, the UK distributor, I'd worked with them on a previous project, a low-budget British film called The Borderland, which, as a sort of ancillary poster, I think it was the director actually had come up with the idea of actually getting me to interpret the film in my own kind of way, which would be a painted poster, which would probably be sympathetic to probably the way that films were marketed way back in the sort of 70s, I guess. Probably a nod to Hammer in there as well. And, just trying to get away from the photographic stuff that, which obviously is inevitably what was produced for the film, for the main campaign and the subsequent DVD cover. But so they had a very limited amount of money, and it was what they proposed to do was print up a small number of posters, which would then be created giveaway for competitions, and never really to be seen in any other form than that. And essentially, this is what we've done with this new poster for the town that is a very long title. So again, a small pot of money, and just said, what can you do with this budget? And we're going to do 50 posters, limited edition, as giveaways. But I had actually seen the film to screening already, and I do remember going to a little basement screening theatre in Soho, and with a couple of friends actually, and I think we were given lots of red wine beforehand. I think I was actually, quite merry when I sort of saw the film, and so I didn't really remember it very well, to be quite honest. It's a bit shocking. So anyway, I did get a copy of the film on a screener to watch, and so watched it probably for the first time, really. But anyway, the brief was to create a poster which not only comprised of elements from the new film, but also elements from the original film, and then also to really be sympathetic to the actual setting of the 1946. Damn, I've just given away.
I can edit that out, don't worry. Yes. I'll bleep it, it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, so the idea was to create a poster which kind of had a period feel, and yet comprised those elements. In fact, that most of the elements I think are probably very much from the first film, simply because the new film does actually draw heavily on material from the original film. So it's kind of like a post remake, if you like.
Yes. Yeah, I love the style of it, and I did notice the sort of the year that should not be mentioned aspect to the poster there. Interestingly, I didn't really get to see the screening either. I was due to go this week, and I ended up watching it with Property of Metrodome written across the middle of it as well. So we had a similar experience there. Despite being 40 minutes early for the screening, I was unable to park a motorcycle anywhere in Soho. So we'll talk about the year that should not be mentioned. That is because we have we might as well do it now. We have one of these limited edition posters we're going to be giving away, and also I thought I'd throw in with the kitty. I don't know if you can see this. I have one of these. which I believe you may have had something to do with as
Oh,
well.
yes, indeed, yeah. Where did you get that? You steal it from the cinema?
No, I was at Fright Fest last year. That's the Fright Fest poster for the people not seeing the video camera. Last year's Fright Fest was actually my first one fully. It was the first time I got there for the full thing. And as I came out, they were giving away various posters. And actually, no, that was my Wolfcock poster. That one I paid money for. Yeah, they had them behind the DVD store there, and I bought that one because I wanted it. So yeah, but unfortunately I've been vetoed on being able to put it on the wall, and so I think what I will do is put it together with the quad print for the long title film, and whoever wins the competition will get both.
Fantastic,
So,
lucky them,
yeah.
or unlucky them, depending.
Yeah. So how did the Fright Fest thing come about? Because the artwork you've done for those is sort of iconic now for me, certainly.
Yeah, the Fright Fest connection goes way back to really it's Alan Jones, I guess, who's one of the 4 organisers. But I've known Alan from way back in the 1980s. In fact, we were introduced by a mutual friend, Philip Nutman, who's sadly no longer with us. But Philip was the UK correspondent for Fangoria magazine, and eventually did end up moving to the States. But he did introduce me to Alan. Alan, I think, at that point was working at Forbidden Planet in London, which unless you're familiar with it, it's a sort of bookstore, comic store, sort of collectors items store, which is almost like the sort of cathedral of well, I don't want to say geek, but that's kind of where
I say geek. It's fine on this show.
In the nicest possible way, of course, though.
Yes.
Alan had been running a festival called Shock Around the Clock at the Scala Cinema, which is, again, harks back to the whole Palace connection. But those were literally, 24-hour festivals. He'd started on Saturday afternoon, go through a very sweaty kind of Saturday night, because it was packed, and it just got a bit mucky, really, and everybody was quite drunk. But then you'd sort of come out, blinking to the sunlight the next Sunday afternoon. But they were great events. Always had a very interesting guests, different directors and actors and the like, and they could get quite rowdy as well. So anyway, that was the genesis of Fright Fest, and I think there had been another festival called Phantasm. But that then became Fright Fest, and I think the original remit was to encompass both horror and fantasy. Although, as you will now be aware that it's pretty much evolved to pure horror now, which is where I'm very happy anyway. So, if you were at last year's festival, it's probably one of the best ones they'd had. I thought. The films were some of the strongest I've ever seen in the lineup. So that's really how that happened. So through that sort of long-term relationship, knowing Alan, and he came to me via somebody else I was doing work with at the time as well, Christopher Fowler, who's a horror writer, and had a company called the Creative Partnership, which still exists, and I still work within that little umbrella. Chris and Alan, they're the guys that I knew, and that's how that kind of all started.
Yeah, Alan, I don't know him personally, but I've chatted to him briefly a couple of times being at Fright Fest, because he's such a personable guy. He just seems like one of the nicest blokes on the planet. Yeah. In fact, where we were sitting...
What's up?
Sorry?
Everybody says that.
Oh, do they? Okay. Must be true, then.
No, he's a very good friend, and but I know that he can appear quite intimidating to some people, though. And, he's got an interesting history, because many years ago, I mean, literally looking at the mid-1970s, he worked in Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood's shop Sex, which is where the Sex Pistols were kind of generated. And there's some great pictures of Alan and Vivienne Westwood and Chrissie Hynde and a few of those reprobates at the time, all bearing their asses for the camera. But anyway, so Alan has this, goes way back, and he obviously would have known the Pistols at the time, and so he sort of had this sort of punk kind of background, which has sort of clung on him slightly, I guess, though, that that there's a sort of an attitude which kind of goes with that whole thing, and And yeah, although he's sort of mellowed over the years, that it's still there in the background, and I think he's a better person for it, really.
Well, there was a couple of, shall we say, difficult Q&As in our screening, because obviously now Fright Fest is so big that there are 3 separate screens. That's the way they've had to go, unfortunately. I did get to see 2 films a year before in the big screen, but that was it. I sort of missed the boat on that one. But me and the guy sitting next to me managed to ask a couple of questions, and he came past and went, they were good questions. And then the next time he came in and he thought it was going to be a difficult Q&A, and he just leant over to us and just went, I want good questions from you two.
Yeah. It's a command, isn't it, though? It's not like a suggestion.
Yes, yeah, we took it seriously. But it was a top year. I mean, I've seen the lineups for the previous years. Fright Fest is one of those things I've seen about since its inception, but I was just never in a position to afford it or be near London or all those kind of things. So I'm only just getting my act together these days. So I would always play catch up, trying to get through the programme later on.
Well, it's 5 days. It's a long slog, and you, with the best intentions of seeing as much as you can, it does get to a point where you can't just do another late night, and you just can't drag yourself in for another morning. So you you pick and choose, and you accept that you're going to miss out on some good stuff, but largely, it's possible to see a pretty good, strong selection of stuff. Even within the sort of the main part of the day. I
mean, the Discovery screens are just I didn't plan well enough, and I didn't realise going in that I needed to plan that well, because there were so many other films coming out. I was like, I could have swapped around, but then the main screen films were so strong anyway. I think we ended up going to one Discovery screen film. Otherwise just sat in the main screens. So this year I'm going to plan better.
Yeah, it's hard because there's so much stuff, and you just can't see everything, and you're going to miss out on stuff. Even if you're there all the time, and it's just very difficult, and it can be quite sort of frustrating actually that you have 2 films that clash, and there's only going to be one screening of each, so you just pick and choose as best you can. But and sometimes in the Discovery screen, it's a much smaller screen, obviously, that you'll find it's completely stacked out, and actually there are no more seats, and so that kind of is it anyway.
Sort of in with those schedules, I missed my opportunity to meet Robert Englund, which I was a bit disappointed about. And actually, they came in and did a little intro for the last showing in our screen, but it was the last film of the night. And I just thought, I'm going to take my chance. And I legged it out the back, just as they were going out the front door. And his guy just stopped me. He went, no, he's done for the day. I was like, okay, I thought I'd try.
Yeah, I didn't see him once, actually. I knew he was there, and I'd like to have had a word myself. But, yes, it's very much... he's being very protected, and he's very, very sort of choosy about what he was doing and what he wasn't doing.
I thought you'd got VIP access to that meeting.
No.
No?
No.
Your poster is the most iconic,
do not allow this person in. I did meet him many, many years ago at the point where he did Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and he was in the UK to publicise the film. And we had met unexpectedly at a party which was being held by somebody who was doing a lot of work with Palace Pictures, and I think a writer, actually. They had a sort of Sunday afternoon party, and Robert Englund just turned up. He'd obviously just arrived in the country, and obviously was invited along. And I think, by that point, by the time he arrived, I think that the wine had been flowing. And I do remember having a sort of slurred conversation with him, and then sort of I kind of apparently slid down the wall into a drunken stupor. And so anyway, that's what I thought. I probably don't want him to remember, really. But
I was going to say, because if I think Nightmare on Elm Street, that the hand over Nancy's head, that is always the image that comes to mind. So it's iconic.
He has said that's his favourite poster for the film. So I've always sort of felt quite gratified that that's the case. So obviously sliding down the wall didn't have any sort of negative impact on that.
I'll have to watch out for you this year. Make sure you haven't got too much red wine going on. So, I obviously my co-host Gordon, trapped in Indiana in the wrong time zone. I did ask him to send some questions he might want to ask you. So, from his list, he wants to know what projects you struggled with the most. to get inspired? Maybe the film wasn't all that, like, didn't grab you, and then you've got to create something.
That's an interesting question. I can't really think that there's been any film I've had a major problem with. If there has been a problem, it's probably been down to the way the brief has been given and delivered. It's probably just down to, perhaps somebody's trying to push it in a direction which I personally didn't feel was the right direction to go. And so that's probably the only time I'd actually struggle with something. I mean, mostly with films, even if it's a film I don't particularly enjoy, then you look for the redeeming factors, and you always find something in there that you can work with, and that's part of the professional approach, really. So I try to find ways which are sort of allowing me to enjoy what I'm doing, as well as giving the client something they can actually use and work with. But it's just every now and again you get this little situation which might happen, but really I don't tend to struggle with stuff.
That's a good place to be. I suppose film being such an artistic form, you can have a really crap film that has a couple of really standout shots. Like you say, it's always going to be some redeeming factor.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. He had a query also about obviously the hand painted approach to everything. He's saying is that canvas work, or is there like computer tools you use now to get that effect you can create digitally, or what's the process nowadays for those?
It's possible to approximate it digitally, yeah, and a lot of people do, and with great success. And it's just not the way I work. It's just because probably going to college when I did, there wasn't a computer in sight. And certainly we didn't work with computers until, the late 80s, really. So by that point, I'd already developed my own technique and way of working. And, it kind of, for me, it was still working well, and still does now. And for me, it's quite swift, the whole process, and it seems to be quite time efficient for me. And also it allows, a certain number of accidental things which happen, which kind of add... Ultimately, you sort of build those accidents into the actual the look of the artwork, and so it has this kind of. There's still some sort of random, spontaneous thing which happens anyway. I think with digital work, the temptation is to actually, repair damage and rather than actually use that as a new sort of a new springboard, shall we say? It's just. I think it's just a personal choice. It's just I like working with the paint, and I quite like the tactile quality of it, and it's something I've said before. To me, it's about being a craftsman, actually using the materials to come up with something. And I can't make furniture. I wish I could, but it's not. For me, it's not dissimilar in a way that you actually craft something and hope that you produce something which endures and people can enjoy, and something will last for years, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, the impression is very much just from a consumer level that the art of the painted poster has sort of been, it's a dying art almost. But then I was saying about the posters I picked up for Fright Fest, the one I grabbed was actually a film I hadn't seen, but it was a hand-painted, and it was the Wolf Cop poster.
Oh, yeah, it's Tom Dude, yeah.
I was like, that's fantastic. That's on my living room wall. That got
it's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. It's great. And Tom is what's so good about his work. It's digital, but he goes to great lengths to kind of give it this kind of painted quality. And his approach is he's really inspired by the video covers from the 1980s, as more than anything else, I believe, and his whole sort of aesthetic is very much that kind of a sort of era of cover art, which is just chuck everything in, and there are explosions and big breasts and big pointy guns in your stuck on the end of your nose virtually. But fantastic stuff. And that particular poster is a stunning example of his work.
So is it getting a bit of a resurgence now? Do you think we're going to go back to those actually on billboards? That's what I'd like to see.
I think the film industry is, certainly in the commercial film industry, is very it's very corporate in its approach to everything, and it's you get this whole thing that it's all about the stars, if there's a star in it, so you just get big heads, or you get these very formulaic kind of things, which, you know, you kind of look from one poster to another and you think, well, actually it kind of looks a bit like that as other poster, and you actually get sort of waves of posters which actually all look the same, and it's quite disheartening. And it's because people won't actually, you know, they can't sort of think outside the box, and they can't imagine that actually you can actually do something quite fresh and creative with your product. And it's almost as if, well, people will only go and see this film or pick up this, you know, this film if it's looking like something they've already seen. And yeah, obviously there's some sort of basic wisdom to that, but on the other hand, you know, it doesn't mean that everything has to look completely homogenized. And unfortunately, that is the way things have gone for mainstream films. But it's the independent stuff is really where an artist like myself or Tom that we just talked about can actually thrive, because, you know, there isn't the imperative to actually fulfill, you know, some massive financial return, you know, being demanded by, you know, executives and executive producers. So that's really where, you know, we can function quite well. I mean, a good example of that is the poster I did for Astron 6 for their film The Editor, which, you know, it was an absolute joy to work, because, you know, it's a great homage to all the Giallo films, and really that's kind of what they wanted to create, sort of a poster of an era. And, you know, for me, it's also it was a chance just to, you know, do something which was, you know, had a sort of iconic kind of look to it, and then, you know, have this sort of portraiture as well. I mean, you know, portraiture is quite essential, I think, for a powerful poster. And you know, whereas your photoshopped photographic poster with, you know, I mean, sometimes the photography might be beautiful, but, you know, perhaps it isn't. But you know, a photograph is a photograph, and it doesn't really have the texture of a painting. It doesn't, you know, with a painting you can actually just very slightly twist the way a face is built. If it means with you know, a male character, you almost create a more angular look to it. With a female character, you tend to soften things a lot more, but you can be quite expressive and, you know, highlight the expression with almost like not caricaturing a person, but actually just bringing out particular details and particular features, you know, exaggerating stuff. So that's really how illustration, I think, can be more powerful than a photograph.
I certainly would like to see more of it. I've noticed you've done some work for Tartan as well, which is sort of the photographic, so the graphic design side of it with photographs and stuff. And you did the audition cover, is that right?
That's right, yeah. Well, really, it was an adapt of an existing campaign, but as with Tartan at that time, and, you know, they no longer exist, of course, they had, you know, poor source materials, and they just wouldn't spend money on you know, buying in, you know, all the expensive stuff that they needed to create a very glossy campaign. So you'd end up, you know, perhaps scanning a sort of an A4 flyer which had been sent over, or perhaps you had a very sort of third generation, you know, duplicate image on transparency. And with that audition image, I know that I had to scan, I think, from something else, and I had to retouch the photograph quite extensively because it was just very poor. And of course, the main focal point is the syringe in the gloved hand. So I actually hired the syringe to actually go a little bit further than the existing one. Actually, I think it was like almost a Victorian syringe. And I went to one of the local sex shops in Soho and bought this amazing PVC glove and the silicone spray to make it nice and shiny as well. So just got one of the you know, other people in the studio to, you know, pose with the syringe. In fact, actually, if you do look at that image, I think you can see the reflections of the conservatory window in it in the studio. So yeah, but
that's brilliant.
Noticed that. But it looks nice and shiny though. And the point was, I put a really crisp version of this glove and the syringe, which wasn't going to be there in the photograph that I was using otherwise. So I then comped that onto the existing image of the girl, which, as I say, had been heavily retouched as well. So you just have to add things to it, or perhaps just do a lot of retouching, or enhancing in one way or another. And in some ways, that does require a bit of an artist sensibility anyway, though, because you're looking at the finished visual thing. It's not just about making something smooth and shiny. It's all about actually how you enhance certain areas, bring out some contrast or knock things back. So it's very much an illustration discipline, I think.
But it's still a creative process, I suppose, which is, if that's what you thrive on, it's still...
Well, yeah, and just...
Although it's day-to-day work.
Shift the colour slightly to evoke, something, to give it sort of a slightly more horrific kind of look.
That's cool. So... I said we were going to do the question, then we just completely tangented. This is good. The Simply Syndicated, the network the podcast is on, is actually famous for tangents. So that's what we do. So, would you like to tell the listeners what the question is for the competition for them to win these 2 brilliant posters?
Absolutely. It relates to the very long title of the Town That Dreaded Sundown. And it's a very simple question. The original murders took place in what year?
I said, well, we gave it away earlier, but I said I'm going to bleep it out. I'm not going to make it that easy for you. This is one of those ITV quizzes, How many eyes do humans have? A, B, or C? Get your entries in, and we will sort out getting those posters to the lucky winner. There's a couple more things. Sorry, I know we've gone slightly over time. Obviously, you've got your illustrated book coming out on Halloween, I believe, Drawing Blood. I figured you'd want to talk about that.
Yeah, of course I can. The plug. It was just a very odd, extraordinary thing that I was invited to submit some object or item onto this program, 4 rooms, in which 4 dealers... it's kind of a battle of wits, really. They make you an offer on something and you accept it or don't, and you have a sequence of the way you see these people, and you can come out of there with a price in your mind for something, and perhaps somebody doesn't offer it and you go away with the item, and no deal is done. Anyway, I thought, well, why not just take in 2 pieces of artwork, original pieces? In the back of my head, I always had this idea that I wanted to have a book of my work, and also an exhibition of the pieces as well. And, I'd priced it out in my head, and, it costs quite a lot of money trying to get something like that off the ground and make it work and actually make it look good. So anyway, luckily one of the dealers is Alex Proud, who has a number of galleries and businesses in London. And his area is really photographic stuff, particularly photographic stuff very much based around the music industry. But anyway, he's got this great gallery in Camden, the Proud Gallery, and he also publishes books as well. So he wasn't prepared to give me the shocking amount of money I was asking for. You have to go in high, really, so beat you down. But anyway, he did say that what he would do is publish the book. He would pay for that and host the gallery exhibition and pay for all of that as well, which would involve all the marketing of it, the advertising, supplying the booze for the punters and such like. So anyway, then we decided that we'd probably go for a Halloween launch because it's inappropriate to the subject matter. And from this point, now it took me about 6 months to get permission for all the reproductions in there, because you have to cover yourself legally. You can't just start printing stuff off if it's a protected image or a protected character. So anyway, it's taken a long time to sort all that out. So I've got 120 images, which I hope will be the most representative of all the horror stuff that I've been doing, starting off with the Evil Dead and going right on to stuff that actually I've yet to do. I've got a cut-off point of June. So there will be a couple of pieces I've not even yet done, which will be going in there. Cool. But it'll be a good selection. It'll be sort of a lot of, some trashy stuff and some sort of slightly unexpectedly glossy stuff even, perhaps. But I've got some nice little text contributions from people, like Sam Raimi's written a nice little piece for me, and Mark Gatiss has written a little paragraph for me, and very odd people like Brian James, who was the founder of the original The Damned, and probably kick-started punk rock really in many ways. So he's quite an important character to have in there for me, because a lot of the work is inspired really by the music of that period. And very sort of people. Richard Stanley, filmmaker, he's written a very amusing piece about getting in trouble with the police as a result of a piece of my artwork. So it's quite entertaining. So I've been putting the book together, and that'll go to the printer in June. And as we know, being launched in Halloween. It's the condition of the product itself is that Alex Proud very much wanted to be a limited edition, sort of a special edition. So it's coming in a sort of clamshell case, and it's hardbacked, and it's very good quality paper, and there'll be a limited edition print which goes with each book, which will be signed as well. So an edition just unique to the book. So it has all these items, and so it comes with a sort of hefty price tag, which I apologise for. I can't do anything about, I'm afraid. But hopefully it will be worth it. And what's hoped is that if the book sells well, then we'll do a sort of a much more affordable version in maybe in the coming year or so.
Well, I hesitate to remind everybody at Halloween, but I will, just in case there isn't one left for me to
Please
get.
do. At least the exhibition will be certainly free, and I'll probably be offering some prints for sale as well. So cool. that element of it will be affordable. And
I'm sure I get to that.
And looking is free, so that's good.
Yes. Okay. One more thing, I'm going to let it go, I promise. I did notice the bit in your bio and some of the images on your website as well. You seem to have an affinity for drawing Daleks now. One of our sister shows on the network is called The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. It is a Doctor Who podcast. So just for my friend Emma, who hosts that show, I suppose you could talk a bit about your love of the Dalek.
Well, it goes back to my childhood, obviously. I'm old enough to watch the very first Doctor Who, so that would have been, 1963. I would have been very young, and I've been 3 years old, so it wouldn't have registered hugely. But by the time I was about 5, I certainly, was very familiar with the Daleks, and used to draw them endlessly. And I don't know, it's always stayed with me for some reason. I've actually got a full-size Dalek in my kitchen. In case I forget that I like them. But I had a friend also who'd set up a company with a license from the BBC to make some sort of scale versions. I think there's a 12-inch Dalek and a sort of 7-inch version, and some smaller little versions as well. But I did all the packaging for him, so that meant I'm painting lots and lots of Daleks. And I've not painted one for a little while, but I'm sure it'll pop up again at some point now.
Right. Are you happy with the newer generation of Doctor Who and what they did to the Daleks? I'm thinking more specifically the Churchill episode with the ridiculously coloured ones.
That was very silly. I thought I wasn't. I'm not a fan of those, I have to admit. But I had no issue with the redesign they did, where they kind of gave it a very sort of bronze kind of steampunk look. And although you don't think the term steampunk, I can see where they were coming from. It sort of gave it a little bit of a Jules Verne kind of look, and I quite liked that, I have to admit. I think I do remember my favourite ever episode or story, rather, was called The Evil of the Daleks, and probably that would have been around, I'm guessing, around 67, 68, but obviously the title itself is clearly a nod to Hammer. And it begins in this sort of Victorian setting, which again is clearly referencing Hammer. And honestly, if Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee popped up in it as well, I wouldn't have been surprised. They didn't, though. But you did have these Daleks in this Victorian setting, and actually, my flat is in a Victorian building, so it seems appropriate for me that we have this evil Dalek in a Victorian flat. But so I think. For me, the Daleks have this weird kind of link to Hammer just because of that one story, and because I love my Hammer films so much, anything that has a Hammer link is kind of good enough for me. So it's my Hammer Dalek as far as I'm concerned, and of course the two films that were made, both starred Peter Cushing as Doctor Who. So of
course,
it's a little Hammer link.
Brilliant. Lovely. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'll say we will remember it around Halloween to remind people of your book coming out. And get your competition entries in, people. So thank you very much, Graham. It's much appreciated.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
If you would like to get in touch with the show,
please send an email to
podofhorrors@simplysyndicated.com.
Tweet at podofhorrors.
Or visit the Facebook group.
Facebook.com/thelittlepodofhorrors.
Also, make sure to check out our blog
at thelittlepodofhorrors.com
for updates,
polls,
and other thoughts on how Ron Gordon has... other thoughts on the horror genre.
Thank you.